identity. Hello, and welcome to the This Is Not Therapy Hour. I'm Brandon Tessers.
I'm Olivia Candosia.
I'm a licensed therapist, and Olivia is an intern therapist, but this is not therapy.
3 more weeks.
Very, very many reasons, yes. Olivia is finishing up her internship and her graduate school program. Although a little inside baseball, not that people generally are going to care about this, but the wheels of bureaucracy move slowly, and it takes 5 to 6 months to get a license, even though you're qualified for it. 2 or 3 weeks. It's not therapy, it's just an open conversation. Olivia and I are here talking with.
Where's the mic?
Oh, it's over there. That's a good point. Maybe I should just move it here instead of switching it. We are here talking with one another and doing our best to take into consideration our best guesses of who you are and what you're interested in, what you're hearing from us, how we're impacting you as we talk. For those of you who are willing and able, we appreciate when people participate in the chat because it gives us more information on which to base our guesses about who you are and what you're interested in and so on. Please don't hesitate or worry about like staying on topic or whether you're interrupting us or anything like that. That's just the nature of conversation. The things that we're saying impact what you think and feel and do, and the things that you say impact what we think and feel and do. As long as we can observe them, we'll talk about whatever we talk about. We work with a private therapy practice called Effective Artistry. Our office is located in Northbrook, Illinois. We do individual, couples, family, and group counseling with people in the state of Illinois and Wisconsin. We also work with a couple executive functioning coaches who can work with people all over the world via the internet. We will do our best to read out comments that are put in the chat because we are streaming on 3 different platforms simultaneously, and you'll only see comments made by other people on the same platform as you. So we try to read them out so that everybody's on the same page. Am I missing anything? Well, it's good to be here. It's good to be back here.
Yes, in person too.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks since you and I, or wait, 1, 2, yeah, 3 weeks since you and I were sitting down together in person.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, it was you and Samira in here. We'll always have the cute pink bubble letter nameplate.
Hey, you can change that.
I don't even know how, and I wouldn't care to if I did. It is not something that would be worth taking the 30 seconds to change.
No, it's not about it being worth it, Brandon. It's about the fun of doing it and exploring options.
Yeah, that's cool. It was fun. It was not fun. I'm fine to just have it happy however it is. And then last week I was out of town and we did it via Zoom, which will be the case again next week.
If your Wi-Fi is kind to us.
We'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But for today, we're here, you and me. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Brandon?
I was just going to say what's on your mind.
I know, but you've been talking to me about everything that's been on my mind. And so it's many things that have been on my mind, so it's your turn.
I don't know. I have to think for a second. Right now, my mouth is a little dry and I want to drink my tea, but it's not done steeping yet. It's nice to be back in the office for a short period of time before being gone again.
All right, boring. I've got a fly infestation right now that's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm scared that I'm going to
Like fruit flies?
No, like house flies, whatever they're called, just like flies. Big boys.
Yeah, house flies, I think.
Yeah.
That's gross.
It's so gross because I left my bathroom window open and it has no screen. And so they all just came through. And now I've got these like the fly traps.
Fly paper,
but it leaves a big sticky yellow mark on the wall. And now I have to figure out how to clean that. So the flies are gone and now it's all just like this residue from.
Oh, so you don't have a fly infestation.
Well, I don't know. I'm not convinced to say it's done because I'm scared that they're hiding in lights and windows. I'm scared.
What's the lifespan of a fly?
I don't know, but I think they breed pretty quickly. And I'm like, did I get them?
Well, this is disgusting, but as part of the life cycle of flies is maggots. That's what maggots are. They're the larvae for flies.
I guess I've never put that together.
So if they
Ew.
were breeding, then you'd have maggots somewhere.
I don't have maggots,
So they didn't breed.
so I'm safe.
Yeah, and if they're not flying around, they're dead.
For you. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, so you're probably good.
Okay.
I mean, there might be like fly corpses in life and stuff.
Ew.
I don't know. I honestly, in my mind, I think of it as like they only live for a few days, but I don't know if that's the case.
I don't
I'm gonna look it
know.
up now.
But they were like, because I sprayed them with some stuff, they were moving slow and then landing on my arm. And that was weird because I don't think I've ever felt like a thud of a fly before on me. Usually they fly off, but it was like, no, I could pick them up. It's
Yeah.
weird. Very weird. Yeah.
28 days, Google says, is how long a fly lives.
Okay. I think I got it.
Cool.
But I'll keep you posted, chat.
I like that what I was saying was boring to you, and your solution to it being boring was like, let's talk about these flies that I had and no longer have.
Well, it's been chaotic because I have a cat, and so I don't want to poison her with anything that could be poisonous. And so I blocked off my kitchen where I was spraying poisonous stuff with like a yoga mat. But the other day, I moved the yoga mat, and now I'm like, uh-oh, is she going to be okay? I don't know.
Is that stuff poisonous to cats?
The spray stuff, but it didn't spray it on the floor. I don't know. People are
People are what?
like quick to be like, you shouldn't have any of these smells or any of these things if you have a cat. And I'm very scared because what if I do? What if I did? Am I doomed? She's been fine thus far. My year and a half living with her.
So, wait, did you broaden that out to like you have other smells and things that
like-
you're not
like-
supposed to have?
Like wax melts or like maybe an air freshener that make like, is it the right kind of air freshener? I don't know.
And why are you not supposed to have that for a cat? Because they won't like it?
Because they're like allergic to it or like really sensitive to it.
Is your cat like sneezing or having
No, she's fine.
allergic reactions of any kind?
I'm having allergic reactions to her actually.
Interesting.
I just found out that I've been sleeping on my couch because that's where my AC is. And she sheds her fur, and my back has been covered in like hives because that's where all her fur is. And so now I'm covering my couch in sheets. It's bad.
Yeah, that sucks.
My flies and hives, it's just not going great.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry that you're dealing with all that.
It's okay. It's okay. I take a little antihistamine and then it clears up.
I mean, I might just, it's a window unit AC, presumably. I might just move that into your bedroom.
Yeah, Brandon, you don't have sciatica.
I might have somebody move it into your
I
bedroom.
think that's a good move. That's a great
But, you know, you do you.
Yeah.
That's why I phrase it as I might, because I don't know.
Yeah. Who's to say? So yeah, that's what's going on with me.
Oh, okay. Cool. What's going on with me, different from what's on my mind, but my family is in Wisconsin right now, where I was last week. I'm going to be rejoining them in a few days. I'm down here to be at the office and check in on some things and also pick up my brother who is in town for work, and then he and I are going up to join them. So that's exciting, but I hate being away from my family. It sucks. Not that like, especially that when I'm at work, which I do when we're all together in the same place, you know, like it's a pretty normal thing. I'm not thinking about how they're not around, but when I'm at the house and they're not there, it's just, I don't like it. I don't know how to, all my routines and everything that I think and do is all filtered around like what they're doing. And we are not, I don't spend much, I know other people do things differently and different arrangements work for different people. I don't spend much time away from my family. It's very, very rare. So I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I am glad to be here, and I'm excited to be able to like, I really genuinely enjoy my work. I like that I can just be at work and do work and not like if I don't go home at a certain time, it's not like I'm missing out on time with them, so I can just focus around here.
You enjoy getting yelled at by me
Yeah.
and your staff members?
Yeah.
What do you enjoy about that, or why
Helping people,
helping people?
talking to people.
Yeah.
When we talk about meaning all the time, and again, I'll say, just in case people haven't like been part of prior conversations. What meaning is how humans can take X and take Y, two different things, and connect them together. That connection is meaning. We make those connections. We construct the meaning. And some of those things are like we make those connections based on observable and logical things, like you hear the sound a cow makes and that connects to a cow because there are reasons that you observe both of those things together, whatever. Or dark clouds mean it's likely to rain. There's observable reasons to make those connections. Other meaning is constructed. That's what we're talking about with constructs, is we just make stuff up.
I have this game called Make That Sound, and it's charades but with sounds.
Okay.
But every time I've played it with people, I allow I allow people to do gesticulations with it too. And you have like a 60-second timer, and the topic of whatever, it could be like nature sounds or person, place, whatever thing. And it's only 60 seconds, and I'm thinking about the meaning people attach to the sound, because I remember someone being like, I don't know what sound a horse makes. Like, I was like, what? I don't know what it's, but I'm thinking about how if we got rid of the hand gestures and actually followed through with only making sounds, how much harder it would be. And I don't know if 60 seconds would be enough to get any points in.
But that's the point of the game, right? Is to challenge you to have to do sound.
Yeah.
So why would it be fun if you... This is the thing I don't understand about games a lot of the time. I love games, all different kinds of games. And it's not uncommon for people to play a game
and then change the rules.
And then disregard the rules of the game in order to play it. And it's house rules is fine. Modifying the rule set to make it more the way that you
I think
would
that's
like
what
it.
I'm doing right now in the hospital setting I'm working at. I'm adapting it to whatever.
Oh, that's where you're playing it? Okay.
But if I was with friends, I think I would do it.
But yeah, there's like you're taking on a voluntary challenge and then being like, never mind, I don't want to do this challenge, as though someone's forcing you to do it. Like, just don't
play that
charades.
game.
Just play that game.
Totally.
And also, like, who cares if you don't get a point?
You're right.
The experience of 60 seconds of trying to make sound. If anything, especially in the context of, doing therapy groups or whatever with people, there's plenty of value in having a turn where you don't get somebody to guess it, but you spend 60 seconds trying to figure out what to do. You don't care too much about winning games.
And I'm such a sore winner.
Sore winner?
Yeah. When I'm starting to win something, I let everyone know it.
Oh, you gloat.
I gloat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really?
Not interesting that you do that. Interesting that you call that being a sore winner. Because you're not feeling like sore losers because you're feeling sore.
Oh, I guess that's true. I don't know. That's just what I've said.
I think I've heard other people say something like that. Maybe. I'm not sure. I can't. It's not a firm enough memory that I'm confident I didn't just make it up when you said it. That I'm like,
sure.
I've heard that. But yeah, you're not sore. You're just gloating.
Yeah.
Just you're a jerk or
obnoxious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Games, by the nature of games, like the kinds of games that we sit down and play with other people, they're fun only if everyone is attempting to win. So it matters that you have to be trying to win. Whether or not you actually do win is irrelevant. And people have a really hard time with this idea of like, I can try for a thing and also not care whether the thing happens, but still treat it as though it's something I want to happen, even though I don't care.
At a D&D show that my boyfriend was performing in, like one of the 4 players, and at some point they opened up the experience to the audience. So we all had little things on the table where like we were part of a different fish tribe, different fish groups or whatever, and we were trying to steal the crown from the under the sea, and it would go player, and then audience could like shout out what they wanted to do. And I was really afraid it was going to be so chaotic, but it was actually really fun and made it so much more of an enjoyable experience to participate. And I stole the crown from my boyfriend during the show. It was great.
That's awesome.
It was very fun.
Good for you.
Thank you. And then it got stolen back, and I didn't get to.
Son of a.
I know. And then my fish died.
See, D&D and like TTRPGs generally are a different class of game because there is no win condition.
Mhm.
And that's really hard for people to understand because what people generally think of as games are things where there is a win condition, that when X happens, that means the game is over
Mhm.
and person Y has won the game. But TTRPGs aren't that. And so that's part of the reason that people are so confused by D&D. They know it's a game. They're like, how do you win? And
Maybe that's why I love it.
what, because there's no win condition?
Yeah, I kind of like the journey of just, I don't know, futzing around.
I mean, there are games, let me say that different. There are contexts in which the objective of the game is to win. And generally we call that competitive, right? Like in competitive chess, it's good for you to win and bad for you to lose by the nature of what you have signed up for. Like that's what we're all trying to do here. With sports or esports or, there's all kinds of things where like it's a contest or a tournament or whatever. There's a prize at stake that winning really matters, and that's the point of what we're doing. There's all kinds of playing games, though. Most people's experience of playing games is the point of playing them is to enjoy playing them, which again, for most games, if one or more of the people playing aren't trying to win, it makes the game less fun. And so trying to win is part of what makes the game fun, but whether you win or not is irrelevant.
Right.
So I've used this metaphor a lot because this to me is very meaningful for like life. The point of most games is to have the experience of playing them and to like have as much of that experience as you can and as is fun, right? So trying to end a game quickly makes the experience worse, unless it's a game where like if you end it, then you can start another one and you can do multiple iterations of it. But if you're playing a game one time, then trying to end it as quickly as possible is silly, even if that makes you win, unless it is a competitive environment, in which case winning matters.
You know what I'm kind of loving? Like rule stacking kinds of games where the rules change constantly. I think that's very exhilarating and a fun mind game. And I don't know, somehow it's like helps me forgive myself more if I like make a mistake. I'm like, oh no. I don't know. It feels they're just more fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Um,
There's a certain style of game design called exceptions-based game design that is in whatever you're calling rule stacking is that basically, right? That like Magic the Gathering is probably the most well-known example of this, where the default rules of the game are this, whatever. But then each card has exceptions on it. This card does this other thing that the base rules wouldn't do. And so each card breaks the rules in some particular way, modifies the rules in some way. And that's a lot of the reason that those kinds of things are fun, is like you get to learn the game and modify the game as you go along, and each time it's different.
On Game Changer, the episode that they just had, they had this giant wheel and the 3 players in like Velcro suits. And on the wheel, they would spin it, and it would be either like an assignment on them of like sexily or like angry or politely or whatever. And so throughout the whole game, they had to honor that. But if one of the other players wasn't following through on the cards that were on them, they could call them out and get points. And then they'd have to like get another one added to them. And it was just like insane. And then there were like modifiers to it where they could flip it and be the opposite of what it is. And then there was swap, where you could swap with players. And at some point, the players swapped with the host who had host the show. And so then the host was now one of the players. And then there was a duplicate card, and they duplicated host the show. So all 3 of the players were hosting the show, and the original host was now the only player. And it was just like, it was so fun. It was so chaotic. Yeah.
There was a time a while back that I was trying to explore like what are the criteria that defines whether something is or is not a game. And
interesting.
I stopped. This was years ago. I stopped trying to like fully flesh it out because it's a word that gets used for lots of different things. Because people will say things like life is a game, or like this isn't a game, or whatever.
Sure.
And so what exactly do we mean by that?
What did you come up with, or what were some of the thoughts that you had?
So I have some thoughts, but none of it applies to everything. But one, I think the most like overarching or most commonly applicable one is that it has a clearly defined set of parameters. That in a game there are rules, there are parameters, there are things which are allowed and which are not allowed. If you can just do whatever you want all the time, then that's not a game. Uh, honestly, it made me question then, and I'm thinking about it now, like why we call TTRPGs games. Because they do have rule sets, although depending on the game, I mean, even in D&D, there's what's called Rule 0, which is have fun. The idea there being that if there is anything in the rule set that impedes your ability to have fun, get rid of it or change it or overrule it. Like the most basic rule is change whatever needs to be changed in order to make it fun. And then there's a rule set to make it so that there, that the game wouldn't be fun if there was no structure or parameters to it. So most of the things that like people traditionally think of as games are things where there's perfect knowledge of the parameters, that all participants know all the information that is relevant to know. They all know the rules, right? One of the reasons that chess is considered to be like such a, I don't know, I'm struggling with a word there. Like there's an opinion, a perception of chess as being a certain kind of game, elegant or meaningful, elite, sure, traditional. I mean, certainly intelligent people think of it as like a smart people's game, whatever. But one of the major points of chess is that there is both participants have perfect knowledge. Each person knows everything that is relevant to the game. You know where all of your opponent's pieces are and all the moves that they can make. And so sometimes people will say things. Elon Musk famously a little while back said like, "Nah, give me some Fog of War or something. Make it harder." But the Fog of War doesn't make it harder. Fog of War means like you don't know where the opponent's pieces are or what they're doing.
Battleship.
Sure. It doesn't make it harder to have less knowledge. It constrains your decision making. Anyway, most things that people think of when they're thinking of games are things where there is a perfect knowledge and a win condition. That like of all the rule set, one of those rules is here's how the game ends.
I'm thinking about throwing a ball back and forth.
See, that's what I'm saying. Would people call that a game? I don't know.
I don't know.
What's the difference between a game and a sport? But one of the things that people often, you just asked about some of the thoughts that I have. Yeah. One of the things people often mean is that the results are cathartic, meaning like they don't actually matter. They're not relevant to your life or my life or whatever. So we have emotions about it. And that's the point of catharsis, is like, I feel emotions about this thing, but the outcome of this thing doesn't actually impact the way that my life is, other than the fact that I just had some emotions about it.
I think you need to make a Venn diagram of the things that all overlap.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't really know why D&D is called a game. I mean, it has a rule set.
It has battle maps and...
Not necessarily. People
can.
Almost always these days, people use battle maps and miniatures, but you don't have to.
Right.
The other way is called theater of the mind. Imagine where everything is. And you only use the battle maps except for certain portions.
I saw a production this weekend of Arthur the Musical, Arthur the Aardvark, with my mom. And at first I was like getting misty-eyed of looking at all the kids walking in with their Arthur dolls and just being so happy and excited that they get to see this show. And then afterwards, my mom and I were like, man, this really lacked whimsy. They did not understand their target audience. And I am bringing this up because we spent the rest of the weekend brainstorming ways we would have written it differently. And our imagination of like,
interesting.
I guess you said theater of the mind, and it made me think of the theater I was putting in my own mind of what they could have done. And
I like that.
But I, for a moment, was like, man, you're not enjoying like what it is. But then I was also very grateful that I like was getting so excited coming up with all these new ideas. I was feeling mean or thinking I was.
What do you mean you weren't enjoying what it is? Were you enjoying all the thinking you were doing?
Yeah, it's fine. So I didn't enjoy.
Would you have been doing all that thinking had you not seen the play?
No.
So you were enjoying it.
Yeah, I almost am like, Mom, we need to write something. This is,
Like, I am a playwright. I have written plays.
Mhm.
I've never had a full production. My first one was set to go into production. It was gonna go in May of 2020, so it didn't happen. But my aim in writing a play or in any piece of art or even the stream, anything that I'm putting out there for people, my aim is to give people something that they can then go and
talk about.
utilize.
Yeah.
In whatever way, shape, or form.
Then they
Not just an
succeeded.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed it.
And I had fun too watching, like, there was one of their preview shows too, which means that there's
If somebody else was like, oh, I really love seeing all the kids and I've been thinking so much since then about it and whatever, and then someone else was like, no, you're not enjoying it right, what would you say?
like, screw you.
Yeah, that's how you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's not a right or wrong way to
No,
enjoy
it was so much fun because I'm like, they got the characters all wrong. Like, DW isn't the one who likes aliens, it's Buster. Why did Buster not have a song about aliens, but DW was talking about?
Well, that's weird.
It was so weird.
It's funny to me though, because you said whimsy, and I don't think of Arthur as a whimsical property.
No, but it was Arthur and his class make a musical. And it was all of the kids trying to come up with their prompt for the production they were putting on. And Arthur really struggling. And
Yeah, Arthur is like morality plays for kids. They're all like making a point about how to be a good person. Basically.
Yeah, but it kind of missed the mark because then Arthur's thing was just him being like, I thought I was so boring, but this is my story, blah, blah, blah. And he's telling a story, a monologue as his performance piece. And during that piece, the climax, so to say, of the production, kids are like, their parents are taking them to go to the bathroom because it's not like engaging. So I just feel like they didn't hit the audience mark.
I hear you, and I don't disagree with any of your thing. I'll just say, kids take their parents to the bathroom at the theater has nothing to do with whether or not what is happening on stage is engaging.
It seemed to be an appropriate time for them to do it.
That's just you thinking it wasn't engaging.
Correct, but I know it wasn't. It felt flat. I was an adult and I was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Engaging is a subjective thing. Engaging describes whether a thing has engaged the person who's calling it engaging. It didn't engage you. You don't know if other people were engaged by it or not.
For a children's show,
how would you know if other people were engaged by it?
They'd not leaving during that part of the show.
No, children, when they need to go to the bathroom, you take them to the bathroom.
Then why didn't they take them at other times?
How do you know they didn't? If you were engaged at other times, maybe you just weren't noticing.
Go away.
Also,
at
what point in the play did that scene happen? He says the climax was probably towards the end, and like, yeah, they all went to the bathroom beforehand, and some of them can't last all the way.
Away.
None of this is to say that your criticisms are invalid. It's just your criticisms and your thoughts don't require justification by saying other people also didn't like it.
But I want to say it too, because I'm like, guys, this could be so much better by doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. You don't need to justify that by saying also other people think the same way.
I do, because it's a children's show.
Why? You can have your thoughts and opinions even if they're different than other people, especially in this context in which you're literally not actually having this conversation with people. You're just doing extra labor in your mind to be like, yes, it is okay for me to not have liked that part because other people also didn't like it.
Okay, that's fine. Sure, you're right.
Unnecessary.
Maybe some people did enjoy it. I, for one, did not.
Yeah, it's irrelevant whether or not other people enjoyed it.
You're right. And they made a giant puppet that didn't even look like the dog. Weird.
No, technical constraints are always difficult.
Yep. But also the climax is him talking about how much he loves his dog. They didn't bring that puppet back out. He was just talking about it.
Why did you and your mom go see an Arthur musical?
Because we loved Arthur when I was a kid. He's great.
Cool.
Why not?
The show wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't. No.
That doesn't mean you can't go.
But
I'm glad you went.
But I don't know who it was for.
It was
I don't
for
know.
the children
It didn't seem like
and
it.
the parents of those children.
Didn't seem like it.
See, that's where you're going into like justification that is unnecessary.
I kept going, the director missed the mark there. The playwright missed the mark there.
You could instead think, ooh, it would be better if, or it would have been cool if. And that's what your initial thought is, right? Like you have some thought of like, I wish they had whatever. I wish, they should have this or whatever. but then to justify having that thought, that it's allowed for you to have a thought of what might have been cool, you then have to be like, no, actually, the thing they did was a failure. That's why I
Well,
want it to be better.
if their goal is to like be entertaining for children,
Well, technically, their goal is to sell tickets.
you know, I was taking myself back to being in some weird TYA shows, theater for audience shows, and sometimes having these thoughts where it's just like, all right, I'll do it, but this script could use some work. And
Again, I don't disagree with your thoughts. I'm just saying you don't have to do this extra.
I understand. I'm past that now, Brian. I'm just talking about other stuff now.
Because I do think that a lot of, not just theater, but a lot of everything that is made for children is incredibly disrespectful to children.
Yes.
That the people who are involved in creating and producing these things think that kids are like incomplete humans. I mean, it's just a general thing that most adults think of children as incomplete humans, as dumb people or less than or whatever. But they're full, rich, complex humans, and the people who make the best stuff know that, and they get my personal hero, Mr. Rogers. Like in one of his early episodes, it was after RFK had been assassinated, and he sits down and talks about like what is assassination, because his thought immediately was like, okay, a lot of kids are going to be hearing this word assassination, they're going to be hearing they're going to be seeing people upset, and they know something bad happened, but they don't understand what it is, and kids are uncomfortable sometimes asking those questions, and adults don't necessarily think like, oh, don't worry about it, you know. So he had a mission then to be like, well, so I need to put something out there for kids to be able to say, this is what assassination is, and this is what happened, so you can understand it. That level of respect for children is unfortunately rare.
Right.
But 2 of my 3 favorite television shows of all time are kid shows. And they're just 2 shows that respect children.
What you got? What are they?
Bluey is one of my, honestly, one of the like most engaging and thoughtful pieces of art that I've ever experienced. And Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I love. I wouldn't say it in the same way as like it is thought-provoking and engaging, but it isn't, I wouldn't put it in my mind in that same category of like art, even though it is art, obviously. It's not as, I want to say it's not as beautiful, but that's not it. It has a stronger plot, like plot.
Bluey does.
No, Avatar. Plot is the major focus of, it's a 3-season arc, and like what happens in every episode matters, whatever. Where Bluey, plot is irrelevant. It's not at all about that. So it gets to just revel in the experience of whatever it's presenting you. So it's not more art or less art. They're just, but anyway, those are 2 of my favorite pieces. There's a reason that like YA fiction is so popular, including among adults. Good YA fiction that like respects its audience.
Shelley Duvall bedtime stories. Love those.
I don't know. What's that?
Shelley Duvall would just like sit on this giant bed, and then there'd be just bedtime stories that she would tell, and they were just so captivating.
Well, that's cool.
Sometimes cartoons too.
I don't think that's what I'm talking about.
No, it's not. I was just
those
thinking,
like children's books. Although, actually, I keep thinking to do this. Sometimes I'll read a children's book and be like, "Oh, I need to have my staff read this because this explains like what being a therapist is better than anything else." In a children's book.
Is it books that are like? Because it's tough. I feel like there's like books that are, this is a social emotional book for kids, and then there's just a book that also happens to have that in there, but it's not so explicit. Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes, I mean, it's always the books that I like the most are not ones that are explicitly like, this is a social emotional lesson.
Right, like The Rabbit Listened.
Right. But I am a big believer in, I was going to say allegory, but that's not the right way to frame it. Storytelling. That like the most powerful thing that humans can do is tell and listen to stories. And so part of what I was saying about like why YA fiction can be so popular for people is because there's a level of like seriousness with which serious literature takes itself, and it puts constraints on itself. It's like to be cool, the idea of being cool or professional or adult or whatever. The way that you accomplish that is by putting constraints around what counts as that, and then not doing any of the stuff that doesn't count as that. To be professional is to just not do anything that's unprofessional. To be cool is to just not do anything uncool. And so like serious literature suffers from that, where there are things that it's like, well, that's not serious enough. And then there are other things where it's like you have to include something like this. I don't read a lot of lit fic these days, but I'll say that a common complaint from my wife is that like every like adult book, grown up book, whether it's an Oprah book club style paperback or something that's like considered always violence against women. In every single one of these books, there's like at least one scene where a woman is getting
weird.
Yeah.
Do y'all still have the bookmobiles out here in the suburbs?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
But also we didn't have that where I was growing up either.
I grew up with the bookmobile would literally stop right next door to my house because we had a lot next door and it was perfect, but just great foot traffic. And so we just walk outside and get on the bookmobile and grab a bunch of books and then get off. And then during summer, they'd have a little craft station where we could do crafts related to the books we were reading. And it was great.
I think libraries might be like
the best,
the single most important piece. I shouldn't say important, but like to me, in terms of like the infrastructure that America created, and I don't mean that they originated it. I don't know where the original concept for public libraries came from, but like they're miraculous to me. It is miraculous to me that we still do this. That like even after all these politics and all like everybody trying to attack and cut all different things, that nobody questions, or at least it is still widely accepted as like, and we're going to send a significant amount of funds to just a building full of like books and resources where anyone in the community can come. It's amazing.
There was a time too where you could just grab as many and they weren't limiting you. I remember that. Stacks and stacks of computer games and books and just audio.
That and then the public school system, those are the two things that to me make it so that there is any sense of community in our culture. Anyway.
No, I agree.
So YA fiction can be so appealing to people because it is allowed to engage with things and in ways that, now I'm going far afield of my original point, but we've talked recently. I've talked with people a lot. If you're watching this stream, I would be willing to bet that the following statement applies to you.
I know.
You were a ravenous reader in like middle school, but then high school happened, and since then you don't read for fun anymore. When you were young, you loved reading for fun. You read all the time, and now you don't do it anymore. And you sometimes have thoughts about, I got to get back to reading, but then you don't. There are different ways of reading, just like we talk about hedonic and eudaimonic joy. It's basically that. There's some reading that you do where the point of the reading is the experience that you're having. And there's other reading where the point of the reading is to gain access to the information that is encoded in the reading. So when you're reading nonfiction, generally, you're not doing that because it's inherently enjoyable. It's enjoyable because of what you learn from it. And in most like high schools in America, the way that reading is taught is in that second way. And they teach it even with fiction. Like to me, the most famous and obvious example is Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, because in the introduction that he wrote to the book, he says that persons attempting to find deeper meaning in this text should be shot on sight. That might not be exact word for word, but it's pretty close to a verbatim quote.
So dramatic.
And they still teach you that book in
So
your high school English class and teach you about how to decode the symbolism. They take things that were intended to be enjoyable artistic experiences, or at least impactful experiences, and turn it into no, the point here is to decode them. And so you lose access to that first way of reading. Because
that's so interesting, because as we were sitting here, I was thinking about it was always very hard for me to read. I had my mom read out loud a lot to me so I could just listen to her, and I would find myself, I would have to audibly speak so I could follow what was going on, otherwise my brain would just wander. And I was thinking, okay, what are the books that I actually felt like enraptured in? Where did I lose myself? And one of them was like a biography of somebody's, but I was also taking notes on the side. I don't know. It's really,
That's a good example of one of the things that happens that ruins reading for
Yeah.
people is if you think that you're supposed to be focused on the reading.
Yeah.
Because you're paying attention to your own thoughts. Your attention is going to your cognitive experience, which takes it away from
I miss my mom reading to me,
the actual
Brandon.
reading.
We did so many voices.
That's fun.
It was so fun. She was so good.
I'll have her read to you more.
Should honestly, that's
Why not?
probably a reason I enjoyed studying with her too. It's just, I don't know. What?
The kinds of people that read voraciously as children,
Hmm.
there's a very high correlation with someone who loves reading as a child up and through middle school, whatever, and somebody who really like does well at school, or at least wants to do well at school, wants to learn how to do things right. So when you teach people how to read in English classes, and really what you're talking about is like decoding the hidden meaning in books, that gets internalized as that's the right way to read.
Yeah.
And so now even when you go back to reading the kinds of books that you used to like, it's not the same because you're trying to read it the right way.
Mhm.
A lot of the time you're consciously aware of trying to do that, but sometimes now you're just like, oh, this is pointless. You know, it's just a story, whatever.
But then give me House of Leaves and you tell me how the heck am I supposed to read that?
So some things are written to be a way to like convey information.
Mhm.
Some things are not.
Yeah, there was a brief moment in time where I'm like, it'd be cool to go back to school and learn about the brain. And then I took my psychopharm class. I'm like, I can't read any of this. This is so complicated.
I want to ask actually, because I never read House of Leaves. I'm familiar with it, but I don't know. What is it? What were you saying about it? Is
Oh, it's just, I haven't read it either. I've attempted to, the first 2 pages, but it's just, it feels it's chaotic. I can't describe it. more
so
than
okay, that to me sounds like, and again, I haven't read it, but it sounds to me like James Joyce or E.E. Cummings, those kinds of things, where it's the point is not to make sense of it.
Yeah.
But if you think that the point of it is to make sense of everything, then you approach the reading in a way that, like E.E. Cummings in particular, is like just about the aesthetics of language, the look and the feel and the sound of it,
But
the meaning of it.
My boyfriend will read Cormac McCarthy out loud to me, and it's beautiful, but I've already forgotten what he said in the first sentence because it's still going, and I'm like,
and that doesn't matter. That's my point.
But the
fact that you think that matters.
But it means so much to him, and I'm like, I get it, but
No, see, the fact that you think remembering every sentence matters is what prevents you from being able to actually read and enjoy and internalize the
Isn't that
experience.
just my ADHD?
No. The fact that you think it's your ADHD is part of the problem. That's what I'm saying. It's my dad's comment. Remember Umi's voice? She taught me how to read with an overly dramatic style, even a primer like Dick and Jane. Every once in a while, I mimic her style because it makes me happy. That's my grandmother, Oma. My father was born in the Netherlands. Oma and Opa are Dutch for grandma and grandpa. And she did have a fun voice and a very strong accent. Not a, well, I guess to some extent Dutch accent, but she actually was born in, tell me if I'm wrong, Dad, but as far as I understand, she was born in Papua New Guinea and then grew up in Indonesia before moving to the Netherlands later.
My dad was born in Cuba, and he has the worst Spanish accent. It is so funny. Sounds like a vampire.
That's correct. Yeah, part of the reason people like audiobooks or like being read to is because it generally, not everybody, but it helps people to be able to go back to the first way of reading where it's about the experience you're having rather than the information you're taking from it.
Yes.
So the more you try to like take information from it, the less you enjoy the experience of the reading.
It's so true.
Because now, again, Cormac McCarthy, someone I'm going to say again, I haven't read, but as far as I understand, his prose is part of what he's known for, which is about like the shape and the feel of the language, regardless of the meaning.
Right.
That like, you know, his books, from what I understand, are not like plot heavy necessarily books. They're just beautifully written. And so to approach something like that and think, well, what matters here is don't worry about like the feel and don't get lost in the flow and the feel of the language. Just like focus on making sure I understand all the words. Deprives of the thing that makes it
Just
valuable.
set a new goal of I'm just gonna experience this.
Yeah, I reread the same novels. Not all, like most novels I read, I don't reread, but I will frequently read novels that I have read 3 or more years in the past because I remember almost nothing about them. Because the point isn't to remember them. Just like you've seen a movie that you don't remember it very well, but you enjoyed it, and then it's enjoyable to watch it again.
I'm thinking about somebody posted like being with someone for a long time is like picking up a book that you've read before, but every time you read it, you're discovering new things. And I remember being very judgy of that, but now that you're saying this, I'm like,
See, to me, that's poetic but meaningless. That statement. What is the exact meaning there of like you've been through everything that there is? No, being with life and people are not like books. There's always new stuff. That part I get. There's always new stuff. And the other part I think that they're referencing there is like you are engaging in something that you have enjoyed engaging with in the past, but you still learn new things, but it still is in the context of it's the same,
think
feels
it's
like
a
the same thing.
they need a different metaphor or whatever that is.
Yeah, no, it's just when I say poetry or poesy, I'm referring to like
Poesy?
like the aspect of being poetic, the poesy that a thing
So
contains, I use that language to talk about that like it's evocative, that like hearing or reading that language brings something up in you, but that the likelihood that what it evokes in you is the same thing as what the person who used that language was intending or thinking is very small.
Yeah.
So there's like when somebody's like, when you get that feeling, that could be very evocative. But my confidence that the thing I'm thinking of when you say that is the same as the thing you're thinking of when you say that is very low.
Yeah.
Again, that's some stuff. It matters more that like we want to make sure we're being like in technical writing, for example. The point is that we are all on. You're getting out of it what I.
Can you do it?
Try this like Umi. See Dick run. See Dick run. Run Dick run. Anyway, I was just thinking about my grandma there for a minute. How my kids who my oldest met her before she passed away. Exactly. Well, the writing was very clear. It gave good guidelines on how to do it. But my two others never met her, and when my oldest met her, he was 2. He doesn't remember her, whatever. But we still, in my family, say things. Oh, actually, I'll tell this story because my dad would like it in particular. What we say, "Boop, boop, 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 boop," which is something she would do when someone's like doing something that's like going to be a problem, and she's trying to get them to stop. She'd be like, "Boop, boop, 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 boop." But one other thing that she would say a lot is if someone's like looking for something and don't find it, and then she helps, or they look again and they find it, she would say, "Next time, look with your eyes." And just this last week, my wife was looking for something and couldn't find it, and my son Miles was like, "It's right there at your feet," and she found it, and he goes, "Next time, look with your eyes."
That's so amazing.
Yeah,
that's really beautiful.
Intergenerational transmission.
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yes, there is something to the experience of art where you're just experiencing it, not trying to learn from it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think about like I've talked about this with you before, where like after a movie, people ask me like, "What do you think? How whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to have some sort of intellectual response to what I thought about this movie."
Yeah,
it's stressful
because like professional and cool, smart is about making sure that you don't do any of the things that are not smart.
Yeah, even after the play with my mom, she's like, "Well, what'd you think?" And I was like, "Let's just sit down and get our food so I can like tell you what I thought first." Like I didn't.
But the people who are happiest and most impactful and effective are the people who are most earnest in engaging with the various things that happen in their life. Like being jaded is a thing that protects people in their social image. It makes you seem cool, embracing irony, like an ironic detachment and whatever. It doesn't make you happy though. Happiness comes from like earnest engagement. Like the cool guy isn't getting out there and making a fool of himself playing with the kids, but the guy who's out there making a fool of himself playing with the kids is having a much better time. And it's unfortunate that our culture does that, teaches people that being reserved is good, and that like engaging with something earnestly and with abandon is in some way foolish or silly or childish.
My sister posted a video. She was at some like fundraiser for trans like support. I don't know exactly what it was, but she was on Silks doing a dance routine as someone was singing, and I was like crying watching the end of it because I was like, when is the last time that I did something that was that freeing? And then I watched another video. Within seconds, she moved to singing this karaoke song that was all just cuss words, and her dancing around her little like flower crown and leotard from the Silks, and she was just having the time of her life. And I was like, this is what it means to be alive. It was, I don't know, a reminder to me to be more
Just engage with things.
Yeah.
Earnestly, fully,
Yeah.
wholly.
Mhm.
Don't hold part of yourself back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not life advice for all situations all the time. Obviously, you want to be careful in some situations and reserved in some situations. But that keeps you safer. To hold back, to be reserved or withdrawn, prevents you from being harmed, or makes it less likely that you're harmed, or that if you're harmed, it won't be as great. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a fraud sometimes, Brandon.
Why?
I think that I preach a lot of like play and whimsy, but the lack that I have been in my own life beyond my work is there. Like it's, you know
what?
Say.
First of all, I'll say quickly, I don't care about a person being a hypocrite as far as like whether that makes a person a good or bad person.
Mm-hmm.
People should be treated differently than other people, right? Like people are different and you should think and feel and interact with them in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That also means that you are different than other people, and the things that might apply to someone else don't necessarily apply to you in the same way. Now, I don't mean the hypocrisy version that like most people are talking about, where a person says that they hold a certain value or they value a certain thing, and then they just don't care about that at all. Because that's just about being able to predict or understand somebody, and it makes it difficult to predict them. It's like if they do things opposite of what they say matters to them, then doesn't make them a bad person, but it does make it harder to interact with them and have a relationship with them, because they're less easy for me to predict and have some sense of like comfort or confidence that I know what I'm going to get with them.
Okay.
But in terms of whether it makes you a good person or a bad person,
I didn't say good person or bad person. I said fraud.
Sure, but I just mean whether it's like a bad thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That really depends on what is the thing that you're being hypocritical about. Like
sure.
There's a quote from one of the books that I enjoy where they say that sometimes a hypocrite is just a person in the process of changing, which I think is like reductive but evocative way to say that. Not everything needs to be technical. By the way, I speak like that second way of reading, where like I'm trying to convey information to you, not just make for a pleasant experience of hearing what I'm saying.
Now, how do I speak?
Well, everybody does both, including me. I'm just talking about the side I lean to. But yeah, no, as a general thing, you lean more to the side of speaking in a way that creates an experience for a person as opposed to communicating specific information to the person.
Yeah.
Vibes, When I talk about a mushy use of language, that's what I'm talking about, is that language is being used in a way that is evocative but not specific.
Yeah, ever since I discovered how much a voice can do and how playful you can be with it, I'm going to use this. But now I'm here with you and I have to learn about language and how that can also be powerful.
Yeah, I use it and I play with it. It doesn't get interpreted that way. And to some extent, that is because of the way my voice sounds.
Your voice.
Yeah.
You use your voice.
My voice and language. I play with language all the time.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah, I tell stories. I pick my moments of when I'm like telling a story and then try to tell the story in such a way where, because as soon as I start telling a story, if it's in the right moment, the person's like, okay, this is relevant somehow. He's going off on a story, but I know there's a point he's trying to make or something. So they're trying to follow along and make the connection of what it is. And I'm trying to balance giving them a little bit of something to give them some sense of what it might be, while also giving them stuff that makes them think like, I have no idea where he's trying to go with this.
My favorite is when you like whispered into a microphone at one point, and like to hear your voice get that soft was just like.
When was that? That was only one
It
time.
was with Caitlin on the video. Like, listen to what I'm saying, kind of vibes.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember what it was.
I don't
But
know
I
either.
think I was like, "How's that working out for you?"
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But so quietly, it's so effective.
Yeah, we are therapists like artists, and I've said this before. I think that therapy is a performance art. You know, that a lot of people would disagree with that, especially if they define therapy and performance art as different things than what I define those as. I'm truly laughing out loud and happy hearing that story about Susan Miles and the smile it produces. That's being alive. Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was so proud. He came over to me right away and told me that he said it.
That's
Too.
so good.
Which is good because she didn't hear him say it when he said it. But then when I went and asked her about it, she then got to hear that he had said it. And she
Performance art.
we're attention merchants. Like that's what we do. We collect and distribute attention. And so knowing how to capture people's attention is what all artists, including therapists, do. And then how impactful you are, or what specific impact you have, how effective you are in utilizing your impact to create the outcomes that you're trying to create. That's the second piece. And that's about where you direct the attention.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to capture it first, and then you point it where you want it to go. And so many people are only focused on the first piece, just the capturing attention, including so many therapists.
And therapists, just to capture.
Well, therapists, artists, people generally focus on that first piece and not the second piece.
And say the second piece again, please.
Directing the attention.
Directing it.
It's kind of that saying of like, it's like a dog chasing a car. They wouldn't know what to do with it if they got it.
Mm.
That people want attention. Of course, all people want attention, and just nobody needs to feel bad about that. That is an intrinsic, universal human thing. We all want attention. You're not needy or whatever for wanting attention. But we don't always have enough or a lot of opportunities or experiences in being able to then experiment with directing that attention elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the less we have experiences of getting attention, the less willing we are to direct it elsewhere once we have it, because getting it back is not guaranteed. Where the more that you're able to capture people's attention, the more that you experiment with directing it elsewhere, and therefore the more you learn about how to be impactful by directing it elsewhere.
I think I know what you mean, but can you give me like a concrete example of like, okay, you've captivated attention and now I'm going to direct it elsewhere?
In therapy terms, or just any?
In therapy terms, yes.
A very common and early example, like pretty much all of my work with clients in the first session for sure, but for several sessions, I will ask questions about like observable information in their life. So including up until like they get to ones that they can't answer. And it's not my aim to get to ones that they can't answer. By the time that a client is seeing me as a therapist, seeing you as a therapist, you've already got their attention. That's part of the structure of therapy. It's a contractual relationship. They are signing on with the expectation. That's why we do consults and why we put things out there, because people are coming into this already with, you are somebody that like you have things to say to me that I think might be helpful. So you already have it. So then I want to direct it. And not mostly, unfortunately, frequently, people are just too concerned with continuing to get the person's attention, trying to impress the client. Look at what an expert I am, and look at how I figured this out, and whatever. I want to get the attention off of me onto what I think would be useful for them to pay attention to.
Okay.
So an example of that is when someone's like, I was feeling really depressed the other day. Okay, what was happening? And they say something, this and that. Okay, what about this? How did you sleep the night before? What was the weather like? Like asking those questions, which are meaningful to me. I'm not doing it just for the impact of trying to, because that doesn't work very well, to just try and direct their attention to something that you don't actually think is worth paying attention to.
Whenever you ask me a question, my whole world shakes. It is like, do I know anything? Have I thought any further about this?
Well, the most helpful thing that we do, like all artists, is call people's attention to something more than they have previously
Yeah.
paid attention to that thing. It's not about, I have access to no information about another person's life, a client's life, besides what they give to me via communication. So any information I have access to is information they already consider to be relevant to the issues at hand. If that was the case, it is likely that the issues would have been resolved by now if they're resolvable in any way. It's not impossible. Obviously, there are times where a person can say things and you can connect some things and say stuff back that brings a new thought about that information, and that new narrative and whatever can change things for a person. But in terms of like likelihood, return on investment, you're much more likely to have big impacts by exploring something a person never thought of before than by exploring for the umpteenth time something that they've explored a million times.
Mhm.
You can find new things, it's unlikely, and whatever new things you're going to find are not likely to be largely impactful or they would have been discovered by now.
Now I'm like, how do you find the things that they haven't already explored?
Well, there's lots of ways to talk about that, but as a therapist, you have to have, not as a therapist, as everybody, you have to have your own ideas of what it matters.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of therapists because we like to validate people and make them feel heard and comfortable, and that is important. We want to do that. And then a lot of therapists just stop at that. They don't want to do anything that the client wouldn't like. In fact, many therapists and many clients, many people generally think that if a therapist does something that a client doesn't like, that therapist has failed or even harmed the client. And it is true that therapists sometimes harm clients. And anytime a therapist harms a client, they have, by definition, done something that the client doesn't like. That doesn't mean that every time you do something somebody doesn't like, you have harmed them. But we get scared and skittish and nervous about these things. But if I don't have my own thoughts and opinions about what might be relevant, then yeah, how could I call your attention to something that you don't already think of as relevant? People are coming to therapy because they acknowledge, they understand there's some stuff that I think that if I knew it, I think would help me, but I don't know it. And by definition, I don't know what that stuff is because I don't know it, but I believe that it exists. So they're looking for some knowledge, some information that they think will help. And mostly people engage in this game where the knowledge is knowledge that the therapist possesses
Game.
already. Because it's pretend. That's what I meant by, in that like
Mhm.
we're agreeing to a set of rules here that don't match reality. They're like, I know the information and I just need to get information from you enough to be able to determine of all the useful information I have, what is the stuff that's relevant to give to you and then everything. But that's absurd. The information that would be useful to a person to have that they don't currently have is stuff about their life and their experience and the context that they're navigating.
Mhm.
I don't know it.
Right.
You don't know it either, but I can direct your attention to things that you weren't previously thinking about or paying attention to, and now you have new information. So you asked for an example, and this was a long thing, but a very common early example is just to ask questions about what was your sleep like, or where were you when this happened, or just observable, empirically observable things, because people will often come in with the underlying theories that almost everybody has about their struggles in the therapeutic context is neurobiological and or psychological. That like there's something going on with my brain, body, nervous system, chemically, whatever, and that's what causes these things. And or I have had certain experiences and have arrived at certain beliefs that now cause these things.
Mhm.
The thing that people almost always ignore is context. What is happening?
Which is bizarre to me because that feels so obvious or seems so obvious.
Well,
Context.
yes, and again, people coming to therapy, it's a self-selecting group.
Mhm.
Therapy is individual, one-on-one, right? You go to see your therapist, but your therapist can't change what your boyfriend is doing or change how much you get paid or whatever. So the nature of the work is that someone has already determined that there's something internal to me that is relevant, I think, to a lot of different things, and I'm looking for that. And then yes, can be, usually is very frustrating to be like, great, cool, whatever. But now I want to point your attention back outside of yourself. Because this is a true statement. There are changes that can be made in an individual that have lasting ramifications, that change the way that that person will think and feel and behave moving forward. That's absolutely true. The idea that we can understand retroactively or not what those changes are and what caused them exactly, and that even if we could, that just knowing those things is in some way impactful in and of itself is absurd.
You said point your attention outside of yourself, so not in here, but out there.
Yes, although ironically, sometimes it is in here, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm always pointing attention outside.
Mm-hmm.
You just asked for an example, and the example I was giving is pointing their attention to the context. But reframing is another way of pointing attention differently. This is part of why it's very impactful to learn people's language, learn the thoughts and theories they already have, and then play around with those things. It's like they're giving you a bunch of Lego pieces, and you want to get all those Lego pieces so that you can build stuff out of them. So yeah, sometimes I'll do things. This is an exaggeration and oversimplification to make the point in a funny way, but sometimes I'll do things like someone will say, like, I have abandonment issues because my father left when I was young, and I'll be like, ridiculous. No, you don't. I don't actually say that or like that, but something that over time give the impression that I don't find it super relevant and important there or whatever. And then later something else comes up and now I want to make, and then I'll say like, well, that's because of your abandonment issues because of your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to use what is impactful, and it is a big responsibility to be an artist of any kind. The point, you have songs that you've listened to, or movies that you've seen, or books that you've read that have changed the way you think, changed the way you feel, changed your life. Mm-hmm. And artists, any artist who is creating art, and I don't just mean like professional artists, that's the aim of art, is to create something which impacts other people that will observe and engage with this thing in the future, whether or not you know them or are there, irrelevant. That just by engaging with the art itself, it impacts them in some way. Sometimes we have specific desires and intents of what particular impact we're trying to have, or on what kinds of group of people or whatever. But that's what we're saying. We're saying I'm trying to create something that as soon as somebody engages with it, they're different afterwards. And that is a big responsibility. Every person is doing this all the time, but mostly people are doing this in direct interpersonal interaction. I say things to you with the intent of impacting what you think and feel and do. So it doesn't feel as large as like somebody else could see this or hear this or read this in some other context, and it could make things better or worse for them. That's a lot. It feels for the therapist even bigger, I think. The responsibility feels even bigger for a therapist than for other artists, because not every form of art is all art has a contractual relationship between the audience and the artist, mostly unspoken, but there's some contractual relationship. We have entered into an agreement about the way in which we are going to engage with this art. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, if people go and see a movie, generally, they're not thinking, I'm seeing this movie so that it helps me to be happy or so that it saves my life or whatever. If it has that impact, great. If it doesn't, nobody's upset. Where generally people are going to therapy because I am hoping that this will improve my life, make me happier, maybe even save my life. And so if you don't do that, if the movie doesn't do that, you can still like the movie and think it's a good movie. If therapy doesn't do that, it's unlikely that the person will think that it is good. The stakes are higher, and people judge it more harshly, which incentivizes, as in all artistic endeavors, incentivizes people to run for the established. Sorry, there's a fountain in the park across the street, and there's some young people dumping some stuff in the fountain that seem to think like they're getting away with something.
We had
I'm wondering if it was dish soap and they're trying to make it all bubbly.
Yeah, we had dish soap people in my old neighborhood all the time that would just
Yeah, there's lots of bubbles in there now.
That's great. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I don't want it to like overflow or cause problems, but it's whatever. Not anything I can do about it, and I'm sure it's not. It's just bubbly. Anyway,
Artistry, stakes are higher.
yeah. Whenever an artist gets scared, they run toward convention. They run toward I'm doing things the way everybody else does it, and that way, if it fails, you can't blame me as an individual. I didn't take risks. I did what everybody is doing.
I imagine myself screaming into the pillow just now, going like, ah! That's very true.
Yeah, therapists do the same thing. We have this strong incentive to run towards. I'm just going to do the same thing everybody else does. Actually, in many cases, we literally state that as though it is like something to be proud of, a selling point. I do evidence-based work, which literally means like everything I do is what everybody, or what many people have said you should do.
Yeah.
And that way, if it doesn't work, well, it's not because of me. That's the formula. That's how it is, Whereas if I go outside of conventions, the more I deviate from the convention, the bigger the risks that I take, the more culpable I will be found. This is like a known and discussed thing in the film industry now, is that the nature of the corporate structures in studios is that it doesn't incentivize success.
Mm-hmm.
It incentivizes being able to point to other things as the cause of your failures.
Interesting.
So over time, movies are taking fewer and fewer risks. Like the huge thing on intellectual properties, for example, right? Like we made a movie based on Battleship, and then if it doesn't do well, it's like, well, look, we had all kinds of research that shows it's very popular intellectual property and blah, 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 and it didn't work. Whereas somebody being like, no, I believe in this script. I can't point to any metrics, but I think it'll be great. And then it fails. Then your bosses are like, you're out of here. You're effectively incentivized to make it so that if you fail, you can point out how anybody that you replace me with would make that same mistake.
That's so bizarre.
As opposed to if I fail, you can believe that nobody else would have made that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter if we make a lot of money. For each individual person, it doesn't matter if we make a lot of money. It just matters if this thing fails, I can at least say it was a safe bet. Didn't work out, but it was a safe bet.
Mm-hmm. Just thinking of all the things in school that have like haunted me, things that they have told me to do, and then I am not doing them or doing it in a new way.
Oh, as a therapist?
Yeah.
Well, like a very common one is self-disclosure. There are like schools of therapy or theory, we call them theories of therapy, different approaches or theoretical frameworks through which you engage with being a therapist. And some of those schools believe that there should never be any self-disclosure at all. By self-disclosure, we mean the therapist talking about themselves or their own experience. Something as small as like, I am married is self-disclosure, but telling stories about your own life or whatever. Now, there's reason to be concerned about that because it is possible for a person to make a conversation about them instead of about the client. And again, when that happens, when a therapist has made a conversation about them instead of the client, it is not always, but often true that they are talking about stuff. They're self-disclosing. That doesn't mean that every time a therapist engages in self-disclosure, they have made the conversation about them. And I would argue, I think most people would disagree.
You have argued. I'm sure I've heard this.
I would argue that actually by far the most common way that a therapist makes the session about them as opposed to about the client is when they make it about their performance.
Mm-hmm.
How good am I as a therapist? How effective am I? How good am I helping you or not helping you? Clients are incentivized. If you have been in therapy, it's likely that if you think about it, you will be able to remember a time when you said something other than what was most true or most accurate in order to make your therapist feel better or happy. It's also, again, there's a correlation between the kind of person who goes to therapy and the kind of person who wants to make other people happy. So especially when it's your therapist and they're so cool and helpful and wise and yeah, you want to impress them, you want them to like you want them to be happy and not mad at you, which disincentivizes you from disagreeing with them or telling them that they're wrong or that you don't like something they said or did. That, I think, is how people make it about them and not about the client. Not self-disclosure, but about the thing that matters in this endeavor is how good am I as a therapist and how well have I helped you, not what is the state of your life. If you asked in the abstract, if you asked a therapist, would you rather that a client's life greatly improves and they hate you and they think that you didn't help and you made it worse? Or would you rather that the client thinks that you're amazing and you've helped them so much, but their life hasn't gotten any better at all? I think almost every therapist would say the former. Yeah, I would rather that their life get better, even if they hate me and think that I've done a bad job.
I don't know if I believe you, Brandon.
I think that everyone would answer that question that way. In practice, I don't think that everyone actually behaves as though that is true.
Yeah.
And we have come up with a lot of like narratives and structures to justify what I could label as cowardice here, like calling things validating, as though, like, if I were to do or say something that made my client feel invalidated, is that bad therapy? I'm a bad therapist, right? I have to validate them. But people don't talk about what validating and invalidating means, so they generally just think that means agree or disagree. And so most therapists are like, no, I got to agree with everything my client says, not challenge or question, just be like, I hear you, you're right. Because if at any point I'm like, well, what did you mean by that? Because those two things you just said sound like they can't both be true. And the client's like, how dare you, question my experience or whatever. That's hard, it's scary. But again, if I already understood how everything works in my life, then anything that I care a lot about, I figured out how to make it work. If I want something to be different, I care about it, and I've been trying and it's not working, then there's something I'm missing. And so nobody's going to help me by just agreeing with everything that I say. That doesn't mean you disagree with everything they say either. Again, you have to have your own opinion, and when you agree, you agree, and when you disagree, you
Brandon,
disagree.
you always say validate and then disagree.
Validate and then disagree, yes. It is important to validate people. Most people, therapy language and psychology language filters into the popular culture in sometimes helpful ways, sometimes problematic ways. And most of the time, not all of the time, it gets disseminated in ways that are helpful and then also gets used past the limits of its utility, and in those instances becomes detrimental. So like gaslighting is a common example where the fact that idea, that concept, and that language spread is great. It helps so many people in so many ways. Then people also use the concept.
I'm like realizing I've been talking to you for 2.5 hours, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm at that point.
Yeah, I spoke to Margaret for 5 hours yesterday on my drive home, and that's the longest I've ever spoken to anyone in work mode.
You did 6 hours with me once.
Really?
Straight through? Straight through.
Oh man.
It was crazy when I first started here. I have it logged in. It was nuts.
By the end of that conversation, I'm in trance when I'm in these conversations. So by the end of that, it's like, oh, disoriented.
But you told me to name it, so I'm naming it.
Name what?
If I feel my eyes drooping.
Oh, that's what you meant. You didn't say that. You said I'm at that point. I didn't know what you meant by that.
Thought it was implied. Oh my god. That's anger at me, not you.
Yeah. Well, it was implied. It was not inferred.
But you can see my eyes. You're supposed to just see that they're drooping.
I did not notice that your eyes were drooping. I don't know to what extent that was me not looking at your eyes or me not interpreting what was happening.
I have so much work to do.
Why? You just did it. You just clarified what it was.
Yeah, I guess.
this is how communication works. You can never know in advance
I
what you
know.
need to say in order to get a point across. You just do the minimum that seems necessary. When it becomes clear that that wasn't, your point didn't get across or you didn't have the impact you were trying to, then you clarify.
Yeah.
That's what we teach people, not to never miscommunicate, but that when you miscommunicate, you identify it. And
It's so much easier
Repair
to
it.
teach it than to learn it.
well, it's easier to say it than to implement it, but I actually disagree. I think it's harder to teach. It's easier to teach the concept.
Okay, you're right.
It's harder to
say
get
it.
other people to do it than it is to get yourself to do it. And it
Yeah.
is very hard to get yourself to do it. That's
Yes.
just, it's that much harder to get other people to. Primarily, the best way to get other people to do it is to do it yourself when you interact with them.
Everything's so stressful and less stressful being here. Can that be true? Those things.
No, but what you said was evocative, even though it wasn't specifically meaningful.
I'm good at that.
And that's good. That's a good thing to be good at.
Okay.
Sometimes you want people to be able to take their own meaning from something as opposed to the meaning that you're putting into it. I do often prioritize trying to get exactly what I mean across to somebody. At other times, I really don't care and I'm letting people take whatever they want out of it. I am aware that people almost always interpret me as though it is the former, though. Even when I am saying something in a way that carries no specific meaning and you can take out of it what you want, people have a tendency to still think that I put a specific meaning
Yeah.
in there and they're trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
Even when I say things like, what are you thinking right now? Which is not a meaning at all, just asking for information, people will still interpret that as though there's something that I have recognized that they're thinking and they got to figure out what it is that I know that they're thinking. People respond to us differently. It's fun.
People respond to us differently.
I actually think everything becomes less stressful as you learn this approach. Although it is a thing that certainly, especially in some contexts, it's one of those things that learning about it makes things harder first and then
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Like I got one down. Oh, there's more steps.
Always more steps.
Always more steps.
Wouldn't it be so sad one day to just, if your future self could appear to you and be like, from this point forward, you never learn a new thing.
It'd be awful.
I would be
awful.
miserable.
It'd be so sad.
I'm glad there's always more steps.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm always still going to be making mistakes and learning new and
Can I
better
still whine
things.
about it?
Of course you can. I didn't say you couldn't. There's nothing wrong with whining about it. But also, that's why the stress goes away. And
Why does the stress go away?
I'm inferring some things here, so you tell me if I'm misinterpreting.
Okay.
But when you're talking about things being less stressful, more stressful here, the process I think is people are taught that there's a right way and a wrong way, or a right answer and a wrong answer from, since we're babies. That's everything, like this word means this thing. Like in order to learn and be a human, you have to teach one another that there's right and wrong ways to do things. And as part of that, what that means is that doing it in the right way is good and doing it in the wrong way is bad. So we strive to do it in the right way and avoid doing it in the wrong way. All that makes sense and it is great. Unfortunately, there are many things in life where there is not a right and wrong way, or that if there is, it's not identifiable or knowable what the right versus the wrong way is. So that causes people stress
Mhm.
because they don't know how to do the right way or they don't know what the right answer is. What we're doing is pointing out that sometimes that either doesn't exist or isn't knowable.
The right thing.
Right. And at first that makes things more stressful because I'm trying to be right, and finding out that I can't be right makes me feel bad. When you understand that it isn't doable, it becomes less stressful. The stress goes away completely because there's not a way to be right. There's just what's happening and what happens next.
Yeah.
But at first, everybody wants to believe that the way that they think and act and everything are right. And so finding out that anything isn't causes a lot of stress.
Yeah. I'm gonna need you to say that every day to me for the rest of my life.
Let's just get it on a recording. And then
Truly, I
you
might.
can make it your ringtone.
Text tone.
I guess that's fair. Nobody calls anybody anymore.
your instant messages, the G chat.
Look, there are so many of these processes where like each step makes sense and it's better than the prior step, but then there's another step to go to, right? Like, and one of those things is that we teach people that it's important and beneficial to do things sometimes, even though that you don't like doing that thing, even though it's not enjoyable. That is an important, genuinely important thing to teach human beings. Our lives would be a lot worse if we never do something that is less enjoyable than other options for future benefit.
Oh, it's foamy.
Yeah, it's pretty big bubbly.
I don't think it's going to be hazardous, though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's the good kind of prank. It's the one that doesn't cause any problems.
Did you have a high school prank?
People at my high school did a high school prank. I was not involved.
What was it? Do you remember? It's okay.
My high school experience was unusual. I flipped around between some different schools in the middle of the year. We talk about it sometime.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that we learn that sometimes it is beneficial to do things that you don't enjoy doing or don't want to do. Unfortunately, humans are generalizers. We take something we learn in one context and we apply it to every other context that seems similar. So then we overdo that. We start to think that actually it's always better to do stuff that isn't enjoyable, or that doing stuff that is pleasant is always less valuable than doing stuff that isn't pleasant. And I know it sounds absurd saying it that way, but so much of what people are struggling with is actually genuinely that, right? That like, I need to be more productive. I got to stop distracting myself with X, Y, or Z. It's just like, if something's enjoyable, it isn't inherently valuable. So after that, then we want to teach people like, hey, actually doing things that are enjoyable is also good, right? It's not that you should never do that. In fact, it's a problem if you don't ever prioritize doing things that you enjoy. So that's good to teach people. But the lesson that generally people take away from that is how I feel is very important in and of itself. Like feeling good and feeling joy and feeling happy, those are important things to feel because of how it feels, which is not the case. The reason that those are important things to feel is the same reason that it's important to like not feel pain. Because when you feel pain, that correlates with something that's happening that is generally bad for you. When you feel joy, happiness, pleasure, whatever, that correlates with something happening that is good for you. The thing being beneficial to you comes first, evolutionarily, came first. And then we learned to enjoy it or find it to be pleasant in order to incentivize to do that thing. One moment. We'll wrap up here. I'm just realizing I totally messed up the timing. I told someone I could meet at 2 because I thought this was noon to 2 instead of messed up the time completely.
It's okay, you're a little rusty. It's been a couple weeks.
So the actual lesson is that same first lesson, that things can be valuable to do regardless of the extent to which they are enjoyable or not enjoyable for you to do. So it's not bad to do stuff that isn't enjoyable. And if you are experiencing unpleasant feelings, that doesn't mean bad stuff is happening. People just are looking for it to be right. It's right to do stuff that you don't like, or it's right to do stuff that you do like.
Get in my head of like, oh, you're doing chores, like, okay, find a way to make it enjoyable so you do them. Which,
if you can, great.
It's helpful, I guess, but I don't have to.
No,
I suppose is what you're saying.
You can do things. All people can do things that aren't pleasant. We have a limited capacity, as we do with everything. And so if there's a way to take something which isn't enjoyable but valuable and make it enjoyable while retaining the value, do that, because it makes it even better. But you don't have to do that.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that you can always just do anything no matter whether you enjoy it or not, because there are limits. But it's helpful to think of this stuff like spending money and earning money. Like sometimes it's important to spend money on stuff. Yep. Sometimes it's important to earn money too. Not just because you like having money, but because you're going to use that money. And you want to balance these things.
I saw your cup and I thought it was a bell pepper. Just an orange bell pepper.
It's kind of got that shape and color. Yeah. We'll wrap up. Good to be with you all.
Thanks.
I don't even know what we talked about.
We did games. We did so much.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.